The burning tea hit my chest before I even registered her voice. For a second, I honestly thought the universe had decided to hit me with a literal wake-up call. Then I heard her. That sharp, nasal pitch that could slice asphalt in two. Move. Some of us have places to be, she snapped, as if I had willingly stepped into the trajectory of her boiling liquid. The commuters around us froze. The platform at West Elm Station had the usual morning chaos, suitcase wheels on concrete, half-awake office workers, the smell of cheap coffee and steel, but her outburst carved a circle of stunned silence around us. She stood there, one hand on her hip, the other clutching her now half-empty paper cup, looking at me like I was the obstacle between her and salvation. This wasn't my first Karen of the month. It wasn't even my first Karen of the week. But it was definitely the first who committed an actual assault over a train seat while having no idea who she'd just messed with. I lifted my eyes to meet hers. She didn't flinch. Of course she didn't. Karens thrive in natural disasters and moral chaos. They are their own weather pattern. "You're in the way," she said again, as if clearer enunciation would make her justified. A few feet away, a young mother clutched her son a little tighter. A man in a navy suit muttered something under his breath. A barista, still wearing his apron, shook his head slowly. But no one stepped forward. You don't interrupt a Karen mid-meltdown. Not unless you're ready to lose a limb or your will to live. I wiped the tea off my jacket. It stung partially from the heat, partially from the audacity. "Ma'am, I don't care what you think I did," she cut me off. "I need a seat on that train, and you are blocking the entrance. Don't you see all these people?" She gestured wildly, as if she were queen of the platform, and I was the unworthy peasant beneath her shoes. My eyes drifted past her to the arriving train. Silver, freshly polished, the morning sun bouncing off its surface. One of my trains. I am though you wouldn't guess it from my modest clothing or the way I prefer to blend in the director of operations for the state's entire rail system. I oversee schedules, infrastructure, employee performance, budget, maintenance, emergency response, and the 1,000 tiny disasters that keep public transportation functioning. I know every train line, every platform, every conductor. And that morning, I happened to be doing what I often do, field evaluations disguised as an ordinary commuter. Karen, champion of self-righteous entitlement, couldn't have known that. She also couldn't have guessed that the very train she demanded priority for would soon become the stage for the most poetic downfall she'd orchestrated against herself. Still, in that moment, she only saw me as an obstacle, some middle-aged nobody with a coffee stain and a slow reaction time. "I'm talking to you," she barked. "You're not even apologizing." "For what?" I asked calmly. She blinked. "For being in my way." I almost laughed. Almost. But the burn on my chest kept me grounded. Instead, I stepped aside and gestured toward the train doors. "After you." She huffed triumphantly, like some conquering heroine claiming her throne of vinyl seating. The crowd parted unwillingly as she swept through, muttering insults about people with no spatial awareness and inconsiderate sloths. A teenager whispered, "Dude, are you okay?" "I'll live," I said, but I wasn't thinking about survival. I was thinking about the system, my system, and how beautifully, deliciously, naturally it could handle people like her without breaking a single rule. I boarded after her, taking a seat 3 rows back. She'd commandeered priority, seating the section reserved for the elderly, disabled, or pregnant. A man with a leg brace stood nearby, gripping the pole as the train rumbled to life. She ignored him, scrolling on her phone, likely crafting a complaint about the tragedy of public transportation inconveniencing her morning. I watched her for a moment. She had curled blonde hair, a rigid blazer, and a pearl necklace that looked as though it had traumatized several oysters. Her expression was permanently pinched, the face of someone who believed caffeine existed solely to fuel her superiority. Then she started yelling again. "This seat is filthy. Don't they clean these trains? And why is it so crowded? Don't they know people have jobs? This country is falling apart because no one does anything right. Honestly, if I were in charge, oh, the irony." The conductor approached her, polite but firm. "Ma'am, this section is prioritized seating." "I am prioritized," she insisted. "I have a back condition." "Then I'll need to see your mobility documentation," the conductor said gently. She sputtered. "Are you doubting me? I should report you. I should report all of you. This whole train is a lawsuit waiting to happen." Around her, Commuters exchanged glances, some annoyed, some amused, some simply tired of living in a world where people like her roam free. I knew the conductor. His name was Miguel, one of our best. Patient, fair, a father of twins, and a man who'd once broken up a fist fight between two drunk accountants with nothing but a lollipop and a stern voice. If anyone could handle her, it was him. Still, she pushed him past his limits within minutes. "Ma'am, please lower your voice. Maybe you'd hear me better if things weren't run so incompetently. Does your boss even care about quality? Has anyone in this place ever done anything right?" I let out a slow breath. Showtime. I stood and walked forward. Miguel noticed me immediately. His eyes widened just slightly, his shoulders straightening as if he'd just seen his commanding officer. Karen saw none of it. She was too focused on her ongoing verbal assault. "Everything okay here?" I asked. Calm. Neutral. Like someone assessing a scene, not dominating it. "No," Karen snapped. "This man is harassing me because I chose a seat that I deserve. And this train is filthy. And the staff is incompetent. And the schedules are off." I finished. "Inconsistent. Poorly communicated." "Exactly," she said, delighted to find an ally. "And the operations manager is probably underqualified." "Obviously," she exclaimed. "Someone should fire him. Or her. I don't care who they are, they need to go." Miguel swallowed a smile. I extended my hand. "Allow me to introduce myself." She looked at my hand like it was contaminated. "I'm Daniel Holt," I continued, "Director of Operations for the State Rail System." For a moment, she froze so completely that I wondered if time itself had paused out of respect. Then her face drained of color. What? "I run this rail system," I said, "including staff training, scheduling, and conflict reports." The train car went silent except for the hum of the tracks. "You spilled hot tea on me earlier," I added. "And now you're occupying a priority seat without documentation, refusing to move, and verbally harassing staff and passengers." Miguel looked at me, awaiting direction. The passengers behind me stared with the kind of quiet enthusiasm usually reserved for court verdicts and celebrity scandals. Karen's voice wavered. I didn't know that I was the wrong person to assault." "That's not that you'd be held accountable?" "No, I mean that actions," I said, my tone steady, "have consequences." She shrank into the seat like a scolded child. "But accountability would come professionally, legally, and poetically, and she had no idea how thorough a system can be when its rules are applied correctly." I gestured for Miguel to continue. He nodded gratefully. "Ma'am," he said softly, "please stand. This seat is for passengers who need it." She stood slowly, eyes flicking to me. Begging for mercy, she hadn't hesitated to deny others. I turned away, not out of cruelty, but because justice didn't need theatrics. It simply needed follow-through. We still had miles to go that morning, and Karen's undoing had only just begun. Miguel guided her toward the pole near the door, the one spot no one wants during morning rush hours. It wobbles slightly when the train curves, and every sudden break sends passengers scrambling for balance. Karen clutched it like it was the last remaining shred of her dignity. Around her, whispers swirled like dust motes in sunlight. Some were sympathetic to me. Most were simply relieved the beast had been tamed. But no one forgot the hot tea, the shouting, the entitlement. Incidents like this imprint themselves onto the public consciousness, the kind that becomes a story told at dinner tables or break rooms. "You won't believe what happened on my train this morning." For the first time all morning, Karen stayed quiet. Not because she understood, but because she was calculating. Karens don't retreat, they regroup. They find new angles, new accusations, new ways to twist the narrative. And as the train sped forward, stopping at station after station, I saw her simmering behind that purse-lipped silence. People got off. People got on. The train filled, emptied, then filled again. Morning sunlight sliced across her face each time the doors opened, but she avoided my eyes. She gripped her phone instead, thumbs flying. She might have been texting a friend or writing some furious online post. And I'd bet actual retirement money on this drafting a complaint email to submit the moment she reached her office. Not that it mattered. I already had the footage. Every train car has discrete cameras. Not invasive, just enough to ensure safety. The moment she threw the tea was captured, time-stamped, logged, and stored. And that alone could get her charged. Assault with a hot liquid isn't something any court shrugs off. But I wasn't interested in revenge. Not yet. I wanted accountability. And accountability takes a particular kind of choreography. When we reached Central Terminal, the end of the line, most people streamed out quickly. Karen hesitated. She held her purse like a shield and stared straight ahead, as if pretending I didn't exist would erase her actions. But the train must empty for cleaning and reset, and she had no choice but to move. I stepped aside to let passengers disembark before me. She hovered near the door, waiting. I could practically smell her desperation to flee, to pretend the morning had never happened. Just as the last few passengers stepped out, I said, "Ma'am, hold on a moment." She froze, turned, tried to smile, but the muscles around her mouth twitched uncontrollably. "Yes?" she asked, voice trembling. "I'll need your full name." Her jaw slackened. "Why?" "I already apologized in the car." "You didn't," I said. "But even if you had, that wouldn't dismiss a safety incident. I have to file an official report." "You're not serious." "I am." She blinked furiously. "You're doing this because I didn't know who you were." "No," I said evenly. "I'm doing this because you threw scalding liquid at a passenger, refused to yield priority seating, yelled at staff, and disrupted a commuter environment. If you had done this to anyone, the process would be the same." "That's not true," she snapped. "If I had been a man, or older, or you're escalating again," I warned. She inhaled sharply, nostrils flaring. "Fine, fine. My name is," before she finished, a woman in a dark green blazer approached us. She moved with the ease of someone familiar with the transportation hub, poised, sharp-eyed, efficient. Her ID badge glinted as she stepped closer. It was Olivia Reyes, head of our passenger relations department. I had texted her minutes earlier. "Daniel," she said in a smooth, calm voice. "I came as soon as I saw your message." Karen's eyes widened. "There are more of you?" Olivia didn't look at her yet. "We're here to ensure documentation is accurate and that all parties are treated fairly." The last words landed like a subtle judgment. Karen drew herself up, attempting to reclaim confidence. "Good. Because I would like to file a complaint." Olivia nodded. "Of course. We'll log yours after we log his." "My complaint is about him." "And the passengers who witnessed the incident?" Olivia asked. Karen faltered. "And the conductor?" More faltering. "And the onboard cameras that recorded everything from 3 angles?" Complete collapse. I was provoked," she blurted. "He got in my way, and he made me late." "And I made you late," I repeated gently. "The train ran on schedule." She sputtered like an overheated teapot. "This is discrimination," she finally declared. "For what category?" Olivia asked. Karen's mouth opened. Closed. Opened. "I don't have to explain myself," she muttered. "Actually," Olivia said, "you do? False accusations against staff or passengers are taken seriously. They're considered misuse of the system." Karen looked like she wanted the earth to swallow her whole. But we weren't done. Accountability doesn't vanish because someone becomes embarrassed. If anything, humiliation is usually the final stage of realizing consequences have arrived. "We have 2 options," Olivia said calmly. "Would you like to hear them?" Karen bristled. "Do I have a choice?" "Yes," Olivia said. "Because we prioritize fairness even when a passenger behaves aggressively." Karen swallowed. "Fine. What are the options?" "Option 1, Olivia said. "We file a formal incident report. That will include the video footage. It will likely result in a ban from rail services for a set period. Given the severity, assault, disruption, attempted misuse of priority seating, the ban could range from 3 months to a full year." Karen's face went pale as winter ash. "A ban?" she whispered. "How am I supposed to get to work?" "Carpool, bus, rideshare," Olivia said. "Or reconsider your behavior." Karen glanced at me as if hoping I'd intervene. I didn't. "And option 2, she croaked. "Option 2, Olivia said, allows you to attend a passenger conduct workshop instead of an immediate ban. The workshop is mandatory in person, 3 hours long, held on Saturdays, and covers conflict de-escalation, public safety, and regulations. Upon completion, you'll be placed on a 90-day probation. Any further incident during that period leads to an automatic suspension of riding privileges. 3 hours on a Saturday, with a mandatory reflection essay afterward." Karen looked like she'd just been sentenced to medieval torture. "That's ridiculous," she said. "I'm not a child." Olivia remained perfectly calm. Then option 1 may be more suitable. Karen clutched her purse harder. Her knuckles turned ghostly white. I'll do the workshop, she muttered. Olivia made a note. Wonderful. Then we'll need your full legal name and identification. Again, that twitch at the mouth. Karen wanted to refuse, but she couldn't. Not if she wanted to keep her transportation access. Shaking, she dug into her handbag, rifling past receipts, makeup, her phone, mints, and whatever else she carried like ammunition. She handed Olivia her ID with trembling fingers. Olivia scanned it. Thank you, Miss Huntley. Karen flinched. Now, Olivia said, we'll step aside to complete the form. Daniel, before you go, anything you'd like added? I shook my head. Just the facts. And with that, I left them. Karen whispered furiously while Olivia documented every detail. I didn't need to hear the rest. The process was in good hands. Once outside, I walked into the terminal's main hall. Tall ceilings, warm morning lights spilling across polished floors, the hum of travelers weaving through life. I love this place. Not because it was perfect, but because it represented motion, progress, connection, all things Karens try to disrupt with their chaos. I stopped by the coffee kiosk. The barista raised an eyebrow. You're the guy who got tea dumped on him, right? Guilty. That was wild, man. Just another morning, I said. He grinned and handed me a fresh cup on the house. This one's less violent. I took a sip. No tea. No burns. A much better morning. As I headed toward the administrative wing, my phone buzzed. A message from Olivia. Workshop assigned. Incident recorded. Passenger placed on probation. Good call keeping your cool. She'll remember this. I sent back. Hope so. Accountability only works if people learn from it. But as I tucked the phone away, I wondered, would she twist the story, rewrite herself as the victim, and blame the world for consequences she earned? I didn't know, but I'd soon find out. Because Karens never truly stay silent. Not for long. 3 days passed quietly. Too quietly. I should have known she wouldn't let it go. On Thursday morning, I walked into my office 7th floor, overlooking the central tracks, and found an envelope sitting on my desk. No postage. No internal routing sticker. Hand-delivered. I opened it. Inside was a printed letter-bold font, aggressive margins, the unmistakable cadence of a Karen in full battle mode. To whom it may concern, I was recently mistreated by a member of your staff who claimed to be Daniel Holt, the director of operations. I do not believe this to be true. No real director would speak to me the way he did. I demand a full investigation into his conduct and into the culture of unfair targeting I experienced. I felt humiliated, threatened, and intimidated. I am consulting legal counsel. Sincerely, Ms. Karen Huntley, I exhaled slowly. Not surprised. Only disappointed at how predictable it all was. Moments later, Olivia appeared at my doorway. You got the letter? I did. She also emailed the governor's office. Olivia added, sliding her tablet forward. That made me laugh. Of course she did. This wasn't new. People escalate things they don't understand, but few escalate as enthusiastically as Karen Huntley. What's the governor's office doing with it? I asked. They forwarded it to us, Olivia said, with a note that reads, Please handle. Perfect. That was government speak for, this is your circus. Deal with your clown. I thanked Olivia and headed to my morning briefing. I spent the next few hours reviewing maintenance schedules, approving paperwork, resolving a dispute between 2 yard supervisors about holiday staffing ordinary operations work. But at the back of my mind, I kept waiting for the next chapter of the Karen saga. It arrived at 1:17 p.m. Miguel called. Daniel, he said, voice tight, she's back. Where? Platform 12. She's causing a scene. Of course she was. I went down immediately. When the elevator doors opened into the terminal, I heard her before I saw her. You can't keep me out, she shouted. I paid for a monthly pass. I have rights. Commuters formed a loose circle around her like spectators at an amateur boxing match. 2 security officers stood between her and the turnstiles. She was waving a printed screenshot of her pass, which had indeed been suspended during her probation. She spotted me instantly. Oh, look, she yelled. The dictator himself. I approached calmly. Ms. Huntley, you banned my pass. You said I could still ride. No, I corrected. I said you could continue riding if you completed the workshop, which you skipped. I didn't skip, she snapped. I had brunch. Olivia, who had just arrived, sighed quietly. Brunch is not an emergency, Miss Huntley. I shouldn't have to sit through a condescending lecture for 3 hours on a Saturday. I'm an adult. Adults, I replied, are expected to follow rules. She screamed an actual scream, the kind that rattled in the cathedral-like ceiling and made several pigeons in the rafters flap away in terror. You people are abusing your power, she said. You think you can bully me? Well, I'm not afraid of you. I will sue every single one of you. You're welcome to file whatever legal documents you see appropriate, I said. But you cannot enter the rail system with a suspended pass. Then unsuspend it. I can't. You won't. No, I said simply. I can't. Not without workshop completion. She threw her hands up. I am done with this entire system. I'm done with the train, done with you, done with your ridiculous rules. All right, I said. Then please step away from the turnstile so other riders can pass. That was the final spark. She lunged. Not at me. At the turnstile. She grabbed it and shook it violently like she could intimidate machinery into obedience. Alarm lights flashed. The security officers stepped in immediately. Ma'am, you need to stop, one said. No, I am entering this train system right now. This is vandalism, the officer warned. Please step back. I am not moving. Everything unfolded in a blur, but a predictable blur. She kept shaking the turnstile until it clattered, bent slightly, then jammed completely. That single gate cost $30,000 and 2 weeks of labor to repair. A camera above it captured every second of her tantrum. The officers didn't rough her up. They weren't unkind. They simply restrained her, explained she was being detained for property damage, and escorted her away while she shrieked about conspiracies and personal persecution. The commuters applauded. Not loudly, not mockingly, just tiredly. The way people clap when the rain finally stops. After the officers let her out, Olivia turned to me. This is going to paperwork hell, she muttered. Yes, I said, but necessary paperwork. That evening, I wrote my statement. Miguel wrote his. Security filed theirs. Legal picked it up the next morning. 2 weeks later, the final outcome arrived. Lifetime ban. Not because of me. Not because of her insults. Not because she tried to weaponize false complaints. But because she committed aggravated vandalism and repeated safety violations documented, recorded, witnessed. The law is surprisingly clear on some things. We mailed her the notice by certified letter. She tried calling my office once. Then twice. Then 5 times. I never answered. There was nothing left to discuss. There was nothing left to appeal. Systems don't revolve around the loudest voice in the room. They revolve around fairness. And fairness had spoken. A month passed. Then 2. Life returned to normal. Once in a while, a conductor would mention her, like a ghost story told over breakroom coffee. But she never returned to the station again. I sometimes wonder if she learned anything. Maybe. Maybe not. But every time I look at the turnstile she broke, now repaired, polished, and operating smoother than ever, I think of something my father used to say. Some people only learn after life puts a mirror in front of them. Others only learn after they shatter the mirror and cut themselves on the glass. Karen chose the second route, but she learned all the same. And the rail system? It kept moving. Because that's what trains do. They keep going long after the noise fades away. Thank you for listening to the stories on my channel. Please give me a like and subscribe to receive notifications about the latest videos.